You know how political labels get thrown around all the time and it just feels intentionally confusing? Well, you are definitely not alone. In this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that noise and figure out what words like liberal and conservative actually mean. Let's dive in. We hear these words every single day, right? On the news, scrolling through social media, maybe even just talking with friends. But what are they really pointing to? What is the real difference between a liberal and a conservative? The answer, believe it or not, boils down to one single, really powerful concept. And yeah, that concept is ideology. I know it might sound a little academic, maybe a bit stuffy, but trust me, it is the master key to unlocking all those other political labels. The minute we get a handle on what an ideology is, everything else starts to make a whole lot more sense. So, what in the world is an ideology? Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a blueprint. It's a blueprint for political action. It's not just a random collection of opinions, but a really structured framework that gives a political movement its purpose, its goals, its direction. And every single one of them is built on three essential parts. Okay, first up, every ideology starts with a diagnosis. It takes a long, hard look at the world right now and says, okay, here's what's broken. This is its core critique, its fundamental take on the problems we're facing as a society. Second, an ideology doesn't just complain about problems, it actually offers a solution. It paints the picture of a better future, right? A detailed model for what the good society could and should look like. This is the goal, the North Star that drives the whole movement forward. And finally, an ideology gives you the roadmap. It lays out a strategy, a plan, for how to get from the flawed present to that idealized future. This is its theory of political change. It's the how-to guide that connects the problem with the ultimate solution. And as you can see here, these three parts aren't just separate ideas. They all overlap and they reinforce each other, creating this complete, coherent worldview. The critique of what's wrong now, the vision for a better future, and the plan to make it happen, they all work together to form the complete blueprint of a political ideology.
So, to kind of put it all together in a more official way, an ideology is a coherent set of ideas that provides a basis for organized political action. And that action could be aimed at anything, preserving the way things are, just modifying them a little bit, or completely overthrowing the entire system. That's the social scientific definition, and it's a super useful tool for making sense of the political world.
But here's the thing. The word ideology hasn't always been this neutral, analytical term. It actually has a pretty controversial history. For a long, long time, it was used less as a tool for understanding and more like a political weapon you'd use to attack people you disagree with. And this really shows the two main ways of looking at it. On one side, you have the classic Marxist view. He saw ideology as a weapon of the ruling class, basically a delusion or a false consciousness they used to trick the working class and keep them from seeing how they were being oppressed. Then, on the other side, you have the modern, more neutral view we've been talking about, which just sees ideology as a set of ideas that guides political action for any group. And this quote from Marx just nails his argument perfectly. He believed that whichever class controls the money in the factories also gets to control the main ideas in a society. They used ideology to make their own power seem natural and normal, to make it all feel like simple common sense.
Okay, so now that we've got a really solid handle on what an ideology is, let's use this blueprint to look at the most common political map out there, the left-right spectrum.
So where did this whole left and right thing even come from? Well, the origin is surprisingly simple, and it goes all the way back to the French Revolution in 1789. In the new assembly, the revolutionaries who wanted radical change just happened to sit on the left side of the room, while the conservatives who wanted to protect the king and the old order sat on the right. And just like that, a simple seating arrangement gave us the political shorthand we still use over 200 years later. So that historical accident led to the creation of this, the linear political spectrum. It's just a straight line. It puts ideologies like communism and socialism way over on the left, and conservatism and fascism over on the right, with liberalism usually sitting somewhere in the middle. It's a simple, pretty straightforward way to organize political beliefs. But is politics really that simple? Can you really capture the entire messy, complex world of political thought on a single straight line? A lot of people have argued that, well, no, this model is just way too simple, and it can actually be kind of misleading. And that's led to some different ideas, like the horseshoe spectrum. This model suggests that as you go further out to the far left and the far right, the ends of that line actually start to bend towards each other. And why is that? Because ideologies at the extremes, like communism and fascism, often end up having more in common with each other, things like rejecting democracy and embracing total state control, than they do with the moderate ideas in the center. So, what does all of this mean for us right here, right now? Well, it's so important to remember that ideology isn't just for politicians or philosophers. It's something that every single one of us deals with, whether we realize it or not.
Think of it like this. Every ideology is like a lens. It's the framework of beliefs and assumptions we use to make sense of a really complicated world. It shapes how we see things, what we think is a problem, and what we think the solution should be. And the most powerful thing about this lens is that for most of us, most of the time, it's totally invisible. It just feels like common sense or the way things are.
Ultimately, when you understand the concept of ideology, you get the tools to better understand not just the political world out there, but also yourself. It lets us step back and examine the very frameworks that shape our societies and even our own minds. And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. What does your lens show you?